Today we'll be studying murmur in medicine. So we think of the heart as in love, so the little heart sign. But it's mm, I mean the real heart doesn't look alike, like in the least manner. Uh and so the heart makes a sound, S1 and S2, which we just call lub-dub. I mean, the doctors call it lub-dub because it sounds like lub-dub. If you stop to hear your heart, you will hear two sounds, or like two pounding sounds, like dun dun, the lub-dub, and that sound is made because in our heart we have valves, and when those valves open and close, that's the sound we hear. And yeah, so here's the heart. We have four valves. This is the mitral. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the mitral one is on the left left ventricle, from the left atria to the left atrium. I think I'm saying it wrong, but for me, I think the ventricle is the one that is down here. We have the aortic. Let me show you. This is the mitral valve. This is the pulmonary valve. This is the tricuspid valve, and this is the aortic valve. Yeah. All right. And when the blood is normal, we don't hear the murmur. But when there is a rough blood flow, we hear a murmur, and the murmur is like a whooshing, and we can hear it. I'm gonna play this sound a little bit later. And so the murmur can be normal or abnormal. Normal, it's a functional. It's called also functional or innocent. It's just because the blood flow has increased and therefore it is more rough. For example, if you're doing exercise, the blood flow has to increase because you need blood on your muscles, and in this all of these, unless I think the only one, I think the mitral or the pulmonic, one of these two are not tri-leaflet valves, but the rest is all has three parts in the valve. The tricuspid is obviously tri-leaflet valve. All right. And so it's functional, it's innocent. But we have an abnormal or pathologic, which when the valve is dysfunctional, for example, has scars on the endings or is not perfect, then the blood that doesn't open all the way up and doesn't close all the way down. So the blood comes back in. We could think of this in a high school gate, or let's say there we have two doors, right? And here is normally closed. So I have stenosis and regurgitation. All right, so here's normally closed, and here is normally open, and the students would go out in a fashionably order. And now let's think that the high school is actually a artery or a vein. The doors, the double doors, or a double leaflet or tri-leaflet. But here's kind of hard to put three doors. These are the valves, and the students are the the blood cells. So here we can see that they go out in a orderly fashion. But stenosis is when it doesn't open all the way up, and so the students, they started pushing and shoving so that they could go through this little opening, and there is a lot of pressure. we could think in the blood like it can't go all the way, it can go out. So we build up pressure here. It's an opening problem. And regurgitation or insufficiency is a closing problem. So here's normally open. So it opens okay. And let's think it's about to close. And if it normally closed, we can see that the blood can come back, or the students can come back. But in a regurgitation situation, it overshoots or undershoots. And so what happens is that some can come back, not all of them, but that is undoubtedly bad. And so stenosis is an opening problem, and a closing problem is regurgitation. And we have symptoms: fatigue, shortness of breath, and swelling of the extremities. Here we have a special view of the four valves. Three. If I'm not wrong, this one is the tricuspid. This one is the tricuspid, mitral. Yeah, tricuspid, mitral, pulmonary, and or a aortic valve. And so I have the murmurs. Can be the most common ones, or mitral regurgitation or aortic stenosis. And so we can have calcification. We have a few problems. For example, calcification of the valves, and that's basically atherosclerosis. We also have degeneration. The most famous one is Marfan's. And there is this US president that looked like he had Marfan's degeneration because he was very tall and had long and thin fingers, but he didn't have any of that. Just looked like. Also bugs can go inside the blood. I mean, not insects, but pathogens can come inside the blood and build up on the valves or eat up the valves. And also we have annular dilation, when here we have the annulus is this part over here that holds up the valves. And if we have a dilation, it dilates. For example, here we can see in the aortic valve or in the mitral valve, or what can happen is that the heart muscle can dilate, and we can see here in the mitral valve. Or we have here, these strings are called chordae tendineae, and we have the papillary muscles. If there is a break in the papillary muscles or in the chordae tendineae, we can have a bad time. So the ventricular, the atrial valve, no, it's not atrial. The pulmonary valve can have problems also. And we have more diseases of the valves in the left than the right. It's like when you use a pair of shoes every day, and one pair of shoes you just use it for special occasions. The pair you use more, obviously it's gonna wear out more. And the left heart is the one that pumps. The right heart just receives with less pressure. Just so the valves are doing more, are wearing out more in the left side. All right. So the heart, we have S1 and S2 beat, and between S1 and S2 we have systole, and between S2 and S1 we have diastole. And so we can do a few questions. We can ask us a few questions in order to find out what's happening. So are we hearing a murmur? Yes. But when? In systole or diastole? And if it's systole, the open ones are AP, the atrial and the pulmonary, and the pulmonic, stenosis, that would be stenosis because it's an opening problem, and the closed are the mitral and tricuspid, so it would be regurgitation. And if it is on diastole, it's the other way around. And if you can't, like if you're here with the stethoscope, if you can't hear right, you just put your hands on the jugular or the carotid artery. Here is not radial artery because it has more distance to the heart and it will be less accurate. But you'll hear it, and then you've narrowed it down to 4 options. And if you went to a cardiologist, we see that he puts the stethoscope in 4 places, with the interspace between the second and the third rib. Here's the sternum. It's that bone we have in the middle of the chest, the thoracic box. I mean, if you slide your hand from your chin in a straight line down, you reach your apple, the Adam apple. And if you go down, you keep reaching down until you are in your chest. Your hand is on your chest, and right there, if you feel it, there's a very hard bone. That's the sternum. So between the second and third rib, that's where the aortic valve is. Between the second and third rib, oh, this is on the right side. On the left side, it's the pulmonic one. If between the fourth and fifth, we have the tricuspid on the left side, and more to the left, between the fifth and the sixth, we have the mitral place. Or you can think you find your clavicle, which is that bone, your collarbone, and you go in a straight line down to the left. That's your mitral. It will intersect with the mitral one. Now let's hear what it sounds like. I hope you can hear it. So we can hear the lub-dub, 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 and we hear a whoosh. let's hear again. So we hear the whooshing in the first, between the lub and the dub, not between the dub and the lub. So that means if it's between the lub and the dub, the S1 and S2, that's systole. So do we hear murmur? Yes. When? In systole. So we can have A, P, or MT. So it says, oh, I heard it more clearly in the, let me see if it makes sense. Yes, in the pulmonic valve. So that's pulmonic stenosis, or I heard it better in the mitral place. So mitral regurgitation. In this case, he said mitral regurgitation. But yeah, that's it.